That hurt.
I'm tuned in like crazy, and I'm pretending like I know what they're doing, and I'm,
Be articulate and intelligent.
Greg's a bitch. That's all.
I find them offensive as hell.
I've never been a fan.
Yeah, fuck that.
Ooh, terrible! Bad, not bad! Oh, pretty good. Okay, decent, fair, great, I loved it!
This sucks.
Yeah, you really gotta wonder how the stuff gets made.
Greg's a bitch. That's all.
Always laugh at that.
I know. Always gets me every time. Welcome to the Straight Red Card. Thanks everybody showing up on Thursday here, which is again, yes, I realize it. I know we are going
two
against
worst nights possible.
Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Thursday with Herc. Right? I mean, yes, we couldn't pick a break, but once football season's over, it'll be fine. But you know what you could do is what I do. I got the football game on, right? Steelers, Titans, but I got the sound off, and obviously I'm going to be focused on the show. The turn in the background, by the way, says, "Welcome to the Straight Red Card. My wife and I had a threesome with me and another woman. What a great day in celebration. I blasted Best Day of My Life. Oh, God, by American Authors. Derek's favorite song. I fucking hate that song, man.
How does that go again?
It's going to be the best day of my life.
Not so
I just fucking hate that song.
Oh, man.
Speaking of loud music, by the way. Oh, yeah. Where are you, Nebraska? What the fuck?
Well,
Nebraska?
this is just another part of my outside, my backyard. See, over here, that's where the grotto was. I was in that one show.
Okay.
Actually, even further over this way, I can't even do it now. Is where I was last show, where I was underneath the pergola,
just different angle, different place,
just a different angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's quite nice.
It's a little hot out here, though, man.
Yeah,
I
bet it is. Okay.
I'm telling you.
Speaking of loud music, so it was like 5, I think, in the morning. I can't remember, but I wake up. There's pounding like music coming from,
Usually indicates sex.
Not far off. Somebody's parked somewhere, but it's yeah. So I'm like, well, what the fuck? Who's pounding music outside at 5 in the morning from their car? And so I eventually wait 10 minutes to see if somebody turn it off, but they didn't turn it off, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I went out to check. And of course, I think it's like, okay, this is probably a bad idea to go out there angry and upset, but I'm going out there because this is fucking pissing me off and I can't get back to sleep. So I go out there, and it's this guy in this big, massive truck, a Tundra, actually. And he's in there, and his eyes are closed. Looks like he's sleeping. So I go up to his window, which is rolled down, and I say, "Hey, man, what's up?" And no response. So I grabbed him by the shoulder, and I kind of shook him. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I even put my hand on his head and kind of pushed his head a little to see if it would wait. No response. It didn't look like he was even fucking breathing, dude. So I'm freaking out. I ran immediately back into my place, called 911, told them, "Hey, I think there's a guy either dead or dying out there in this particular area." I'm not giving you the address, but I had to give her the address. And
I live in this resident here.
Right. So then my neighbor actually comes out as well, because he's like, "What the fuck's going on here at 5:30, whatever it was in the morning?" And so I'm like, "Yeah." And I showed him the dude, and we shook him again, and nothing. Absolutely no response whatsoever. And so at this point, we're thinking, okay, they're going to be here soon, because the rescue services, we could already hear the sirens coming from, and they were there in like 5 minutes, and it was a fire truck. And as they were pulling up, that dude my neighbor had found a Narcan, and we were going to go do it. But they pulled up, boom, they got out, and we're like, here's some Narcan. They're like, "No, we got our own. Don't worry about it." And they opened the door. They got in there. I suspect they Narcaned the dude. And because then he came to in like, I don't know, 30 seconds.
Dude, I was sleeping. What the fuck?
And they're like, hey, man, hey, what's up? Are you okay? Wake up, wake up, wake up. So he woke up. I went back. I was a little shook up by this, but I went back and went to sleep. But what a crazy fucking thing to happen at 5 fucking in the morning. But that's just to show you this can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
It can happen anywhere. It's not cheap to live here. So you gotta have a decent job or a lot of money in the bank to live here. And yet this guy's out there parking in his parking space and dying. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anyhow, I'm glad it all worked out because that would have been, again, another dead person. And I don't need another dead person. We found one a few years ago. I don't need another one. Also, about the horse video in the title, we should probably get to that. Don't show your stepsister this show. Why not? We're pro stepsister here. Okay, Lopez, I sacrificed my future firstborn child to erase the memory of that video. Yeah, listen, the thing about that video, and I saw that Jack saw it, and he said, I can't unsee it, and I thought that was really funny. It is horrible. The weird thing the first thing I thought of, Brett, is that is super dangerous. Remember the guy in Washington State who did that to horses and he died? Like it ripped up his colon and his intestines and because fucking guess what? Horse dicks are gigantic and they're powerful beasts. And if they
a lot of hip thrusts. The video looks like almost like a miniature pony type of horse, like just like a smaller.
It's
horse.
A smaller pony,
but yeah,
right. But still.
Yeah. My thought process when I clearly I wasn't paying attention to Twitter that day when all that was going around.
Thank God for you.
So then all of a sudden I see it on the title of the show. I'm like, what the fuck is this infamous horse video? And then so Derek finally tells me, oh, it's a video of a horse fucking a dude, and I'm just like, if you've seen one horse fucking a dude, you've seen them all.
But I mean, seriously, it's a dangerous thing to do. Don't do it because listen, you don't have much control. Now that smaller horse, I guess if you had to, I don't know. I wouldn't fuck around with that. You only get one colon, and if it tears and rips, you could die. It's that simple. But as someone who's had a massive life-threatening hernia before, not because of a horse, by the way, just making that clear. It's a dangerous thing to do, but I guess there are people out there that want to experience that. I find it quite weird, but hey,
it's like have you ever seen the movie Clerks 2?
No, I only saw Clerks. Nope.
You're fine. You're fine with just watching Clerks. Clerks 2 is okay at moments, but it doesn't have quite the same charm as the first one. And I did not even bother going to see Clerks 3. I don't even know, but there's a part in there where like Dante is going to get married, and I can't think of his friend's name, the salsa shark guy. I can't think of his name, but regardless, he's like, we gotta throw like a bachelor party for him at the fast food restaurant that they were working at, and they end up bringing in a donkey show.
Oh, okay.
With Kinky Kelly. So they're thinking, there's going to be this chick and a donkey. What?
Which is that's sort of
turns
Central
out
American
Kinky
thing.
Kelly actually is a dude.
Oh, Jesus.
The donkey show goes a different way. So same concept.
Oh, good God. Okay. So anyhow, I was wondering what they were talking about in that group that we're all a part of. Where we talk soccer. Well, they talk soccer. I talk soccer maybe twice there ever. But I did notice that Tact was in the conversation recently. So I scrolled back when they started talking about horses. Thinking, what are you talking about? And yeah, I saw what they're talking about. I just wonder what made Tact click on that video to begin with, right? Because it's not a GIF, right? It's not a GIF.
No.
So it wasn't just playing. It was a fucking video. Kind of a weird thing to do. Chris Gary says, I was going to spend my Saturday getting fucked by a horse, but after Derek's PSA, I'm going to rethink my plans. That's probably a good idea, Chris. Like I said, dangerous. You only get one colon. only one set of intestines. Don't mess them up by having an animal who you can't say no to because they don't speak English and don't understand words. Well, I mean, like giddy up, I guess. They understand giddy up. Jose Lopez for $1.99. It looked cold. Must have been the Midwest folk.
Got to warm up.
It
Got to
looked
warm up. You know, get those cold evenings.
Is this still on the horse discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where the guy was from. So, but that's not how you warm up. It might be how you warm up parts of your intestines. But listen,
snuggle up to the lady. I mean, the animal that he loves.
Oh God, he doesn't love that. He doesn't love that horse. All right, so that's it for the horse. We just had to explain what that was. What do we want to get into next?
I guess before we do anything, Derek, you're gonna have to cover your screen because I got bingo cards and God, man, I hope the bestiality's on one of these.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And got card number one.
I'm singing that new Beatles song, by the way.
I think bestiality is so far off the topics of late that Mitch doesn't put it up on there anymore.
It was a topic once, wasn't it?
It was. It kept getting brought up all the time.
You know, we bring up all of the
you're good, Derek.
Same topics, so it's probably easy to, create a feasible bingo card for us, I think, for the most part.
Well, Mitch has been doing it for several months now.
I know, he does a great job. Yeah, I was just singing that song. And now and then. Here's the biggest compliment. That's the new Beatles song. It's going to be the last one, right? They started working on that song, I guess, 20 years ago.
The technology
20 years ago.
Strip down the audio or whatever.
Right. Because it was on a crappy little cassette tape. It was just John hitting record on a little cassette recorder and playing the piano and singing. If you hear the original version, it's crap. The sound quality is horrible. So they had to figure a way to pull off his vocal, clean it up, and then separate it from the glurgy, guggly sounding piano.
I guess depending on how you recorded it with the cassette, yeah, obviously the audio is not going to be the greatest.
Well, and the tape's got to be years old. Years old.
Even more so, they had to go and find somebody with the tape player.
Well,
you got a tape player? No?
Yeah, who's got a fucking tape player anymore? I do.
It's right next to my VHS, bitch.
I mean, I've got a tape player, a fucking phonograph, also known as a record player, and of course, I've got an 8-track recorder that uses tape, but it is currently non-functional. And then I've got a digital 16-track. That's what I have to use these days. Like when we redid my whole album and we wanted to add parts and clean parts up. Yeah, I had to take all the analog, make it digital, get it on these tracks so we could add things to the songs. And we ended it. But here's the compliment from my mom. This is what I love. She's talking about the song. She says, after talking about it, actually reminds me of something you would write. Wow. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom.
I guess she said right. So I was going to say, weren't you just bitching about the quality of the audio?
Yeah.
It's the words that go with it.
I mean, the words are pretty simple. You can tell, this was the beginnings of a song because John would often write these rough sketches and he'd just sing what came to his mind. So they'd be really simple. And then later on, when he went to the studio, he would rework the lyrics completely. But maybe this is what he intended. Anyhow, I like the song. I think it's worth listening to. I think it is a technological miracle. If you go back 100 years, this is impossible. So that sounded like the Float On song from the 70s. Float On.
So I know Modest Mouse.
Modest Mouse. Yeah.
But it wasn't the 70s. So I'm like, man, is Lefty thinking of, is there another song called Float On? There is, and it's by a band called The Floaters.
Huh. My brother has a lot of those in his eyes. Floaters. Oh, then there's the float. Then the hot tub floaters. Yeah. Horrible. So anyhow, yeah, go check that out if you're a Beatles fan. I think it's fun. I don't think it's the best Beatles song ever written, not even close. But I think Paul does a really good job with the arrangement and adding the orchestra and all the other instruments. and Ringo plays drums on it, which is cool, man. I'm sorry if you're a Beatles fan, you're gonna like almost anything they would put out now, because everything Paul writes on his own solo shit sucks now, and it sucked since what, the 80s. I mean, since he did that shit with what was it called? Ebony and Ivory. Ever kind of since then, Paul's just like downhill. Like, he can't write a song to save his fucking life. But it was not that long before he did Band on the Run, which is one of the best albums he ever did after the Beatles. But hey, sometimes you lose it. And they interviewed Bob Dylan once. They said, hey, how come you don't write any new music or do any new songs? And just said, because I'm done. I'm out.
Why the fuck do I need to?
Yeah, but he's just like, I got nothing left to say. I said everything I wanted to say, and I really don't have any new songs in my mind. I did everything I wanted to do, and I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to go out there and write albums to fake it. And at some point, somebody's got to tell Paul that his new albums are horrible. They're just awful. And I listened to all of them.
Somebody should go tell Paul
that. He won't care. He won't care. But this is actually something he was involved with. That's good. All right, probably enough Beatles talk. What else we were going to cover here?
Derek, it was a nice palate cleanser from the horsecock conversation we had earlier.
Palate, as if you've been having it in your mouth.
Oh, God, that's a perfect transition. Oh, I do have it pulled up. It's one of the few fluffs that I kept for tonight.
All right.
So we have loads to talk about today.
Loads,
I bet. About the loads that guy took from that horsecock.
Oh, God, I know. That's got to be horrible. Anyhow, I'm also drinking tonight, just to let people know. I am again drinking a Leffe. Yes, I bought a 6-pack, so this is going to last me for a while, since I only drink beer during the show or at my parents' house. So there you go.
You know, Derek, with the future path that AI has taken us, and the concerns that people like Elon Musk express when it comes to AI taking over, are we going to create our own Skynet? Was Terminator actually a Nostradamus prediction movie?
I mean,
somebody from the future saying, hey, warning us, don't trust this technology shit. Well, I mean, you have AI scripts now that can take 3 words that somebody says and completely construct somebody's voice and carry on a conversation. Now they're really trying to take it too far. They are going to make a robot at some point. So here they are trying to get the voice box of a robot going.
Oh God. Oh God.
It's audio. There's audio here.
That's obscene as shit. Oh, Jesus H. Okay, enough. That's freaky. I can guarantee you most guys look at that and think, fuck the speaking part.
Fuck it. Kind of looks like a fleshlight.
It does look a little like a flashlight, which, by the way, I don't own one of them, but I have seen the commercials for them.
I just want to know what's up with this this mushroom head on top of it all.
I know. It's like a giant cock head on the top of a cock, or a mouth cock, whatever you want to call that. Beats dating a horse. It certainly would, although it is a little disturbing to look at, to be honest with you. Sure, that's not a flashlight.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, where are all the vocal mechanisms in this tube? And why is it a tube? Couldn't they have done something better or something less penis-like?
My guess is the vibrator aspect of the fleshlight in the back is probably what's being constricted when the things are going up on the underside carriage of the cock here, if you will.
I mean, if this is the best they can do, we got a long ways to go. That's just really bad.
Somebody's like, hey, let's take a fleshlight and let's constrict the tube to make it sound like we're gonna get it to talk at some point.
I know, and that microphone's just jammed right up in its mouth face or whatever.
Whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it must be turned on 10 because there's not much coming out of that thing. All right. Oh, by the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Clayton.
Oh,
yeah, Clayton. Hey, man, thanks for the photo. It's pretty badass. Understand you were at the Orlando game. I don't know what your name is on here, but thank you for sending the photo with the shirt. And he was very complimentary of the high quality nature of the shirt. He said you were right. This is high quality shit. That is why it's as expensive as it is. But anyhow, you can find out more if you want a straight red card shirt down below in the description. Okay, so anyhow, I recommend you get one because they are high quality, and there's more choices in that. There's one with Beavis and Butthead on it. That's the one that Tack wears on his show on occasion. It's us as Beavis and Butthead, but no one's actually come after us for that, which is, I think, really cool. Thank you, Mike. Mike, what was his name? The guy did the Beavis and Butthead.
Oh,
Mike something. Yeah, can't remember his last name. All right.
Again, one of those things. Probably shit. There, Chris Gary has it. It's Michael Hunt.
Sure, it is. The creator of Beavis and Butthead.
Here you go. It's Michael Roch too.
Mike Roch. Yes, of course, Al. Thank you.
Beavis and Butthead. I thought you were talking about
Mike Judge.
I thought you were talking about the person who made the actual shirt for us.
No. We made the shirt. What you mean?
Who did the art for us?
Well, that would be our English friend. Did this particular design, right? That Clayton's wearing. What's his name?
Well, yeah, Simon did that.
Simon.
Yeah.
Simon did the logo.
I'm talking about the Beavis and Butthead one. The art for that.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now.
He's our Facebook person who we were talking to all the time. Right?
Yeah, he's a great artist.
Isn't it also Brett?
I don't think so. Might have been. I don't think so. But anyhow, this Orlando playoff game looks pretty empty. But this must be way before the game either started or after the game ended. But there actually looks to be players on the field behind him. So,
yeah.
But I hope this isn't how full the stadium was during a playoff game. Hey, Clayton.
Yeah, that's rough.
Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for the email. Thanks for wearing our shirt in public and not worrying about getting beat up by someone. Why would anybody beat him up?
Nobody would beat up. No. Like, I want one of those. That's what they say.
Exactly.
Of course.
All right. Back to what you were focused on.
Midlife Crisis Podcast responded to our topic about the anti-Berhalter rhetoric.
Okay. He says, fun discussion on the show tonight. Tell Derek I didn't intend to induce a rant. Well, listen, dude, that's coming. I can't help it. I can't help myself. I'm definitely not saying Greg is our best manager of all time, but I think he deserves more credit than most give. Yeah, I just don't see it. At some point, results matter. Cheers, Jack. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I'll give him the credit for actually getting the results. I'm not a big fan of how we're doing it because those games easily could have gone a different way.
Yeah, it's not like we're crushing people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're not even all the time. We're not even crushing countries.
El Salvador.
Yeah. I mean,
be crushing El Salvador.
But I appreciate Midlife Crisis asking the question, listening to the rant, and not being offended by it. And
I don't think there's anything offended towards him in the rant.
Well, some people think you send in a question, the dude gets into a rant, he must be upset. If you watch the show, you know that is not true.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. I'm a loud German. All right. Loud German American. And I picked that up from my family. They're all loud as fuck. And, we talk about things in a passionate way, but not because we're upset. Because, I mean, it might sound like that to some sensitive people, but there's a time many a year back. I love to argue just for arguing's sake. Mm-hmm.
So me and my friend Chad, who's been in the chat before a number of times, hasn't been recently, but I know he listens to the show on repeat later.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time where we were all in the van coming back from a bar by our house, going back to their house, I think, and we got in this conversation about the train track that goes through Fishers into Noblesville and where that goes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I had said, well, it goes up to Lafayette,
mm-hmm.
towards Lafayette, that direction.
Right.
And then he's like, no, it goes over towards Fort Wayne. And so we're going back and forth, and I'm sitting there. I mean, we're practically yelling, but we're friends. So I'm like yelling. I'm like, "Are you a fucking idiot?" There's literally a Boilermaker train that comes down those fucking tracks during fair time. Blah blah blah. We're going back and forth. Eventually, we find out the track splits and goes both to Lafayette.
Both. That's what I told you when we had this discussion. I said it goes both ways, dude.
But the people in the car were sitting there like, "How are you guys still friends after talking like that?" I'm like, how else are you supposed to talk during a heated conversation?
Yeah,
heated
exactly.
debate about trains.
I mean, we've had a few here.
Stupid. You don't think we're actually pissed off about talking about trains here?
Trains? Are we talking about trains?
Trains.
I mean, we've had a few here, and on occasion, it's not the end of the world. We'll get over it. I know people are more sensitive these days, but honestly, it's not much fun to be that sensitive. It really isn't.
And I know it's probably the most recent one, but my favorite one still is me basically telling you to shut the fuck up when Diego was on.
Well,
let me fucking finish here. Like, I'm just going to sit over here and pout.
I said, no, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to say anything then. That's what I said.
Yeah.
But that show was rough because, everybody, well, anyhow, so we'll get into the dynamics of that show. All right.
Thanks, Midlife Crisis Podcast. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
Guys, if you ever have any form of conversation, like a talking point like he had in that one, bring it
Send
up.
it. Send it.
We'd love to sit here and bitch at each other for 20 minutes, which is approximately how much it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Just talking about that topic. Any topic like that.
Also, wearing our shirt isn't going to change the world or anything at a soccer game, but it
changed the way the world views Straight Red Card Podcast.
Yeah, the most interesting quote I heard the other day was, anybody who tells you they're going to change the world ultimately make things worse. You want to know who wanted to change the world? Hitler.
Greg. Oh.
You also want to know who wants to change the world? Stalin and Lenin. Okay, mostly Lenin first, but Stalin followed. You don't want someone who's going to change the world, because that never turns out right. Because in order to do that, that means you have to manipulate a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of systems, and you got to have a lot of power, exude a lot of power over other people if you really want to change the world. And that usually doesn't turn out for the better. Trust me. So don't trust anybody who says they're going to change the fucking world. Be scared of somebody who says that, because that takes power, and power means authority, and authority means you get less power and you have less control over your life. Just ask the people who lived in Germany during World War II before and not after, but before.
Fewer and far between at this point, man.
Yeah, I think it's my grandfather died in 2002. So, God, that's been so long ago. My mom was born after World War II. Brian DeMarco, ha ha ha. Well, this took a turn.
I agree, Brian. Let's bring it back. And I know we kind of got sidetracked from the Skynet oral device that was trying to talk and whatnot. But you hear in the news these days, you hear like sometimes they'll talk about like how like milk's bad for you, and then they talk about how milk's good for you, and then they'll talk about how milk's bad for you. I'm using milk as an example.
Yeah,
I don't think any adult should really be drinking milk at this point. But they always come up with something, and I feel like there might be an agenda with this one.
Okay,
pull that up real quick.
Oral sex is worse than smoking for throat cancer, doctors claim. Bullshit. That's got to be bullshit. There is no way that's true.
Well, for one, the doctor claimed it. Two, it's New York Post.
I mean, New York Post sometimes is better than the New York Times, for Christ's sake, but that's not taking much effort.
Oral sex is proven to be the #1 cause of throat cancer.
It's not. It's not.
Worse than smoking. It's worse than smoking, guys.
It's bullshit. As I light up.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, listen. I
think these are the doctors that the cigarette companies have bought off. And Joey's right here.
So, oral sex, by the way, not every woman can throat it. Okay? That's number one. That's why this is stupid, number one. not every girl I've ever met okay, I'm not getting into numbers or whatever, but I am saying not all of them could deep throat. And so the end of my cock did not end up in their throat area in the first place because they wouldn't take it that deep. And some girls can't. So I guess if you're a deep throat expert, maybe so, but this still seems like horseshit to me because smoking has got to be one of the worst things you can possibly do.
I want to know what's on those people's cocks that are giving those girls cancer.
Yeah. Is it the cocoa butter Vaseline? I don't know. I doubt it.
Possible.
I mean, you don't need Vaseline, obviously, unless you've got dry mouth because you've been smoking pot all night.
Yeah, why would you? Great point, Derek. Why would you even need to? But I want to see the documentary years in the future of somebody with one of those little vibrating speaker things going, you want to know how I got cancer or throat cancer?
My porn career.
Smoking too much cock.
This is a ridiculous thing.
Oh, no.
This is ridiculous. Hey, baby, can I lube it up a little since you got the dry mouth? All right. Anyhow,
I'm not taking medication earlier.
Yeah, you just have her drink some water or something. Yeah. Don't need Vaseline, and nobody wants Vaseline in their mouth. All right, not that I know of. I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I mean, we just watched a guy fuck a horse, so what do I know?
Well, we didn't just.
Right.
Don't go back further in the show, guys, to try to find that video. Not showing that.
Anyhow, I'm calling bullshit on that article.
Let's see here. Hold on, we got some stuff here. Let's see what this guy.
Full-time official. I saw this. It said it's more dangerous for men to give women oral sex because they're the JJs. It's so nice of you to stick to words that aren't going to offend anybody. Are dirtier, carry more of something I can't remember. Yeast.
So what you're saying is it's going from say having sex to doing that. Okay. I can see that.
Listen, this makes total sense, by the way, full-time official, because unlike the cock, right? It doesn't have all these cock doesn't have all these crevices and
unlike the cock.
I mean, we all know the vagina, right? It's got all kinds of different places where things can sit and develop and turn into unnice things.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that makes sense that obviously it could be some unhealthy things in there, right? That's why you want to always take a shower before sex. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Or make them take one. All right. Next, what do we got?
Well, I don't mean to get political. This is the last piece of fluff, guys, and then we'll go on to actual soccer. I'm sorry. This has gone way too long. I don't mean to get political here, but have you heard that that Sweden is joining forces in the war in the Middle East?
No, that doesn't seem like a very Swedish thing to do.
Well, here's their long-range firearms they got going on here.
Their long-range what? Oh, Jesus. It's a fish. Salmon. Have some salmon. It's a good one. I like that one.
Okay. You're probably a little scared there, Derek. And I think a number of viewers actually went down when I said something about being political.
Oh, guys, no.
There's nothing political about the show.
No, we don't do politics.
Whenever we do
here.
it, it's definitely going to be a joke.
Right. I mean, when we do, we talk very in general terms and in I think fair terms, actually.
Yeah.
General terms that just about anybody can agree to, for the most part. I don't care if you're left or right. Most of us agree.
It's not the Swiss. It's definitely the Swedish, and they're shooting fish.
There's
a joke there, guys.
The Swedish fish. Yes. All right, let's get on with the soccer stuff.
All right. Enough of the fluff, Derek. Let's get to your favorite, best topic ever.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
Oh, no, hold on. Okay, I'm ready. Transfer news. Everybody loves that transfer news, but me. All right, was that on? That
was phenomenal, Derek. You did a good job there.
Excellent. All right, here we go. Derek will love this. Thank you, Chris. Source: Chelsea FC and Leeds United are both very interested in John fucking Tolkien. Tolkien has caught the eye of many European clubs. That last part is true. He has caught the eye of many European clubs, but they ain't Chelsea.
Hmm.
And it ain't Leeds. It ain't either of those two. And it's more likely Leeds than Chelsea. I know Chelsea buys some shit players for a lot of money. But if he goes to Chelsea, he's just going to pull a fucking Matt Miazga. He's going to go on loan forever to everywhere and never play for Chelsea because he's got a ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
All right? He's a good player. He doesn't choke like a motherfucker either during the playoffs. He's played very well in the playoffs, unlike somebody else named Jesus for DC, who's choking left and right in the fucking playoffs. He's a good player. Somebody will pick him up. He will play somewhere. But if I had to give him advice, I'd say don't go to Chelsea and don't go to Leeds. Find a good middle of the road, middle of the table German team and go there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And by the way,
go somewhere where you're going to play. Don't go somewhere where you're going to get shipped off into a loan army and you're never going to see playing time at that club ever again.
right.
So
And don't you don't need to go to Leeds. Why do that? I don't see that anyhow. I don't see that as being
there could be an EPL tomorrow or next year.
More likely he's going to Salzburg. Okay? That's the sister club of this team. And
It's a good step in the right direction too.
it is. It's a good next step. And then you move from Salzburg to somewhere else. Don't make it Leeds. Don't pull an Harrison. Don't get worse as you go to other leagues.
It's nuts that Clark didn't go this route either. Why was it an automatic jump to Leipzig at that point? Leipzig should have taken him and then loaned his ass out to Salzburg.
Yeah, they didn't think he was good enough for Salzburg, which is why they loaned him out to whatever that Scandinavian team was. And
not again, I remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but he never really played. And so now he's going back to Minnesota. He's going to Minnesota, I believe, right?
Mm.
Let me just say this.
Going to Minnesota, yes.
Listen, Caden Clark is a good kid, and I know he's good friends with Tact, and so we're not going to say anything horrible, but I will say this. He's got to have a major career turnaround because he is heading nowhere but the wrong direction, and it seems like everywhere he's gone, it's not gone well. Whether it be at New York Red Bulls, it didn't go well, and then he went to Leipzig, that didn't go well. The loan didn't go well, and now he's going to Minnesota. So hopefully he'll get a chance to become a solid MLS pro.
I would even say that would he even be considered one of the youth players where they were very good during the youth careers and then stunk it up while in Europe, but he didn't even have that great of a youth career. His U20s weren't that impressive by any means.
No, they weren't, and I never really got it. I know there were some good highlights for Caden Clark.
Oh no, I think that's the one thing he was. He was definitely a highlight reel.
Yeah,
I mean, he had some phenomenal goals. Unfortunately, some of them at the expense of Chicago. But
right,
yeah, he absolutely had some phenomenal goals. The problem was they're too few and far between, and we've talked about it ad nauseum throughout the years. They just wasn't getting enough playing time.
And I don't know where Caden Clark's ceiling is because he's never really shown us that he can maintain some sort of consistency. So even if his ceiling's really high, which we've seen he can do amazing things, he's never been consistent enough to get playing time anywhere where he's been. And that's not all his fault. He mentioned in that interview with Tack that, it was bad timing. Sometimes it was injuries. He had to have his appendix removed, whatever it is. But you got to have some good luck too in your career. But he's had all bad luck, number one, and just not a really good experience so far. So we'll see what happens with him. Fingers crossed. But I don't think he's a future U.S. men's national team player. So if you're thinking that, don't think that, because that's probably not going to happen.
I think it is funny that you bring up the fact that he had talked to Tact and everything about that number of times actually. He's good friends with Tact, and I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, yep. There's probably a good reason why we'll probably never be on great terms with current players. Because we think any of them. There were times where we were bitching about Pulisic. Mind you, he was going through a bad spell.
Yeah,
but it's just like, can you really be us and still hold good terms with players?
I think McKenny was going to come on the show, but we've never really I mean, we were hard on games on him when he was at Leeds, but never like ridiculous. And then so there are some players who will come on. I don't think it's going to be Aronson.
Unless he's got a good sense of humor, I swear.
Unless he turns it around. I know he saw the bro video that we did of him and Musa. I also know that Pulisic sent, I don't know who these people are, but I mean, Pulisic's homies came after me for calling him a virgin. So they know, they're aware of what's going on. I don't know if they're really his homies, but I mean, why would somebody write me and say, hey, stop calling him a virgin? He's not a virgin.
Weird thing to get bent out of shape. I mean, you're a multi-millionaire playing at the highest levels. And
you're worried
you
about
happen
that?
to have your V card still, according to a small podcast.
It's just a joke.
Well, even if it, I mean, yes, even if it was or wasn't, doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that.
No, I know
that's got to improve. That's got to improve your stock with the ladies.
Some of them, I guess. I mean, there's always that.
Most ladies don't necessarily want to hook up with, a giant fuckboy in that sense.
Right. I mean, the older ladies like to teach the younger the boys, right? The younger men, if they're virgins. So they get off on that. Some girls do, not all, but some do. Okay, next topic. Sorry.
So what you're saying is you don't think Tolkien's going to go to Chelsea?
I'm pretty fucking 100% sure that he shouldn't, and he won't.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying this last show, it's a little early to be talking about transfer news. So there's not a whole lot to talk about. So I do have another one on here.
Okay.
It's not necessarily U.S. based, but it's definitely a hot topic on Twitter. Plus, it's your European team.
Okay. All right. Fulham is reportedly interested in Santi Jimenez. The fee could potentially be around 50 mil. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for Santi Jimenez. This is literally the most reasonable Santi Jimenez transfer rumor I have seen out there. This tact.
That's very true in the sense that the 50 million is actually kind of lowball from what a lot of people on Twitter are saying he's going to go for.
That's crazy to me. That's a lot of money for Santi.
I think his market value itself is something like 40. I'm not 100% positive now.
Is it really?
I looked it up recently.
I mean, yeah, I know he's doing all this in Holland.
Maybe it's 20. Maybe I have it really fucked up.
But how many times do teams overpay for people who were really good in Holland?
No, he's 40. His contract his market value is 40.
Listen, I guess whatever. I mean, it's my team. I wouldn't pay 40 million for Santi Jimenez, or 50 million. Excuse me. It's too much money. It's too much.
And he's scoring goals by the buckload. You see the talent there. Will it translate is a big question.
I'd pay for him, but I'm paying 50 million. I'd do 30.
Well, okay, so you're not paying 50 million if you're Fulham. I don't think that's
going to happen. No.
Now, if you're throwing out random big club teams here, the Real Madrid, PSG, any of the Uniteds, if you will.
Yeah.
50 million for a potential striker that might be very good at that level. You never know.
All I tell them is don't sign with Man United. That team is a goddamn dumpster fire. It's the worst. I mean, Man United's hitting. I didn't think they could hit many more lows, but they just keep hitting more lows. And that team plays like they don't give a fuck. Like they don't care. They give two shits about any game they play. Like no effort, no running. It's just
that's right. That was a big number right there.
Despicable. Feyenoord wants it like 80. Maybe they do. If they do, dream on. That ain't happening. Balogun had more production in League One than Jimenez has had so far, and Balogun didn't go for 50 million. That's what I'm saying, BMR. That is a ridiculous price. And how many players have we seen have great outings, great times in Holland and score lots of goals? Excuse me.
Josie Altidore.
And then go to the Premier League and even on a shit team look like shit. Sunderland. All right. It's happened countless times. You're rolling the dice when you're making that kind of payout for a player that's killing it in Holland.
And I'm not going to try to defend Josie's time at Sunderland by any means, but if he were allowed to take his PKs that he had earned he would have at least had 5 more goals on top of his 2 I think he had.
Is that YouTube video still up? And it says highlights Josie Altidor's Premier League goals, and that video lasts for 15 seconds.
I know I had a video of it was a team. I can't think of who it was now, and it just showed like the one goal. It's Chelsea. And it just showed the one goal on repeat for 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And, if you watched Josie back then, the number of times he was on the pitch and in the box during corner kicks, set pieces, you would think by just sheer accident, the ball would drop to his feet and he would shoot it in for a goal, just accidentally. But even when those things happened, he would miss. I mean, the number of sitters he missed that season, too. It's just, anyhow, bad seasons happen to players. But you have to ask yourself before you sign a guy like Santi, is this guy $50 million? Because, I mean, you've got to have more than just skill when you go to England and play in the EPL. You have to have a big pair of balls, a no give up attitude, a fucking I'm going to fight for my goddamn spot every day. And you're going to go from being like the star at Feyenoord to being pretty much a guy who's going to have to battle for a position and prove it night in, night out. So if he's willing to do that, but I still not, if I'm Fulham, I'm not paying $50 million for Santi. No way. Chuck says, so Dempsey admitted to being jealous of Donovan yesterday night. I haven't watched that one yet. I got to watch that.
I saw a clip. It's an actual audio clip. It's like quoting stuff. And basically it sounded like him and Donovan weren't necessarily that close during the whole time period.
No, they weren't.
Two totally different people.
Oh, totally different.
Doing their own different things. And
just think about
both jealous of each other in certain ways.
Think about it. Dempsey came from small South Texas. He's a hip hop guy. He's a tough guy. He's got chip on his shoulder. Donovan, California boy, never really had that big of a chip on his shoulder, but arrogant or self-confidence through the roof, whatever you want to call it. So they're both self-confident at the same time, and yet they are totally from completely different cultures. Completely. I mean, Clint Dempsey's making fucking rap videos, and Donovan is, crying over his divorce. I mean, they're totally different.
On some retreat. Yeah.
The only time I was told that those two finally got back together was that Gold Cup right before the World Cup when Donovan came back, and Klinsmann started to play him, and actually came off the bench at the beginning. And then when Donovan scored, you saw Dempsey point at Donovan and go, he's still the man. He's still the fucking man. What he was basically trying to get across there is, hey, this guy should have started. This guy's still one of our best players, and he needs to be on this team. Well, Klinsmann didn't listen, of course, because by the World Cup, he was gone. Longmorn 16.
This is in reference to the conversation we had earlier. I didn't catch it. Sorry about that. When we were talking about the anti-Berhalterism.
Right, and I kind of agree with this in some ways. I think GG's record, in spite of him, not because of him. Yeah, I mean, we got a great group of players, and we're squeaking out wins against teams we should be fucking destroying in some cases. And the team looked better under BJ. The team looked better with the two intern coaches. They looked better. They performed better. They were more creative. They were more thoughtful. It flowed better. And then we went back to Berhalter ball. At least in the second half of the last two friendlies, we went back to Berhalter ball. And then even before that, with the sheep herders and goat herder games, we played kind of we just looked all kind of stuffed up. It wasn't like when BJ was there and Hudson was there, right? Stratman $4.99. Is that because you're good at strategy or you got a Strat guitar? Let me know. $4.99. Need your expert advice. My stepsister's pregnant. Oh no. And it's mine. Should we announce to the family on Thanksgiving or X this morning during presents? Fuck Greg. No, I think that that's got to be done in a different atmosphere. You're
already going to be bitching at each other on Thanksgiving. You might as well do it then.
I don't think so. I think you got to tell the main characters in the story, i.e. mom and dad. You got to sit them down with her and you got to say, listen, we're not related. You guys know that, but we're in love. Okay. We get past that. It's the first part of the conversation. You can get past that. Then the part 2 is, and by the way, not only are we seeing each other, and that's okay, and I'm glad you understand, but yeah, she's pregnant. Now, if she's 13, you're in a shitload of trouble, buddy. That's all I gotta say.
Age does play a factor in that.
It does. It does. It's not just any stepsister. You both have to be either in the same age. We're like 15, 16, 17, 16 years old. But don't be like, the older 18-year-old brother having sex with your 14-year-old, 13-year-old stepsister. That is a bad, bad thing to happen. All right. That's our advice, or my advice. I don't know if Brett has any.
Did I say it's just like a Band-Aid, pull it all off at Thanksgiving? Everybody's going to be bitching and bad moods.
No!
Get it over with.
You don't do it at Thanksgiving because then everybody's there. You got to deal with mom and dad first.
I got news for everybody.
Yeah, right. That's like, okay, so you ready to celebrate? Everybody's jaw's gonna drop like 10 yards.
Here's what you do. You get in a good mood by proposing to her first in front of everybody, and then later on you over cookies and tea and everything. You explain that yeah, she's pregnant.
I think it's just mom and dad, and you sit them down. You say, okay, A, we're seeing each other. B, she's pregnant. C, you take these in sequential order slowly. Okay. You guys just going to ignore the Nicolima transfer rumors? Yes,
we are.
Worst host ever. Yes, I agree, BMR. Worst host ever. Turn it back around. Tell everyone that Planned Parenthood. Yeah. Bring the whole family to Planned Parenthood. Yeah, that's not good. All right, next topic.
This is one that you brought to my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I didn't see it. I haven't been active on Twitter in the past couple of days. I've been dealing with a sick 5-year-old.
Oh.
In the sense that she's had 102 to about 100 to 102 range for like the last 3 days nonstop, regardless of how much ibuprofen and Tylenol we're pumping into her. So we finally took her into the doctor today, and they tested her for COVID and strep. It came back negative for both, but she has like the white spots on her tonsils or whatever that indicates strep. So plus she's got ear infections, so they've given her a bunch of antibiotics, and we're going from there. Dinner tonight was the first time she had food, like legit, like had an appetite to eat food in 3 days.
That's crazy.
I'm telling her, I'm like, Charlie, eat this cracker. You need something in your system. Mm-hmm. And I was at work yesterday, and he was like, I don't know what to do. She's shaking. She's not getting any food. I'm like, bribe her with candy. It was just Halloween. Say, hey, do you want some candy? And she goes, I'm doing that as you send me this. So it was like over the course of 3 days, she had 3/4 of a bowl of grits, a couple of crackers, and then a small bag of Skittles.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's not good. It just makes you think, like, when I was doing all my research about families of Bloomington and, the settlers there from, 1830s through the early 1900s, how many of the graves were children? Mm-hmm. Modern medicine. I mean, I'd say if people had 7 kids, 3 of them died in infancy or before the age of 5. Yeah. It's crazy. So Nick Lima, Indy 11. Well, good. We could use them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Were they instant grits?
Were they instant grits? Well, I am no self-respecting Southerner, so of course I use instant grits.
Makes sense.
My cousin Vinny reference there. I appreciate that.
All right. Next
to the talking point that you brought to my attention.
Right. Oh, yeah. I'd say Pulisic and his development was an anomaly here. McKennie was Germany, to be honest. I don't think so. Dak. You're cutting out a lot of other development. Then you also have depth players like Johnny, Lund, CCB, Tillman. Our development domestically ain't great. Remove all those players, and our roster is pretty bad. Yeah, I read this and I went, come on now. That's not all fair, I don't think.
We've done it in the past where a healthy chunk of our roster is MLS based throughout qualifiers, and we've qualified before. Now, of course, we've had some outliers like Donovan, who's a lifer but should be in Europe, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But we've always had a healthy chunk of that roster as MLS based. So it's to say that our roster would be pretty bad, it wouldn't be as good as it is now.
Oh,
but we'd still be competing. The rest of CONCACAF is basically MLS and Liga MX. That's
right.
basically it. Outside of the random outliers that might be in Europe, for the bulk of it, we're playing against a bunch of other MLS and Liga MX players. So, in theory, those players should be comparable and being able to compete, even if we don't have our Euro-based players. But I agree with you. I don't think this is accurate because we're going to pull up some.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
development documentation, if you will.
I don't think what Tact understands is that he is so fucking spoiled right now. Like, go back 10 years.
His generation is.
And what we were doing when we were doing our first show on Big Soccer, and the absolute hopelessness there was about MLS academies developing anybody, and youth development in general being in a complete clusterfuck of failure. We were
shitting a brick over Perez, who was playing over who signed with what team was it in Syria? Oh God, I can't think of who it was.
Oh yeah. I can't remember.
Fiorentina.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you had Fafa Pokal that was over with Cagliari, and we're sitting there like, oh my God, it's happening, guys, it's happening.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah,
what happened?
We were left with Breck Shea and Juan Agudelo as the only contributors from that whole generation of development, and it was pitiful. And those guys weren't even good enough to be there at Cuvo when we lost. So, I mean, listen, we're spoiled. What we got now is actually players that are developing out of those academies and are becoming respectable pros. To say that CP Christian Pulisic is just let's start with him. It's just an anomaly. Is not fair or true, because Gio Reyna, was next on that list. His development happened here for the most part, for the most important years here in the United States. By the time he got to Germany, his basics were already developed. You can't give Dortmund all the credit for that. The same way you can't give all the credit to Dortmund for Christian Pulisic. The basics of those players had to be good enough to take them to the next level at Dortmund, and it did.
And you can give Dortmund some credit, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Not discrediting the fact that they went there at such a young age and still developed. But a lot of what the player that Gio is today is not necessarily what he's learned at Dortmund. Because quite frankly, when he moved to Germany, he was only there for like a year before he was actually getting consistent.
A starter, right?
A starter.
Yeah.
I mean, at the age of 17, he was a legit starter for Dortmund. Like really a legit starter, and then he got injured for 2 years,
right?
And now he's coming back. So there's definitely development. The development occurred well before that elsewhere, and it happened with family. And yes, he does. It does help that he has a former pro father, who was able to keep him in the environment, if you will. But all of the development itself came from him in the U.S. development stage,
right? And then we go to Weah. Same thing. Almost till he's 15 years old, he learns his craft. The basics of the craft make him good enough to go to France, where he continues the process. But let's be fair. 14 years is a long time playing soccer. Like 14, 15 years old is a freshman year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
You already learned a whole lot of shit before that. You don't go off after that and learn that much more. And I mean, I'm sure he did. I'm sure all these did. But Okay, I think Tack's point is that MLS is our main source of developing talent, and MLS academies aren't producing high-level players for the U.S. men's national team. The majority of our higher-level players weren't from MLS. Okay, that's somewhat true.
But it's still development within the U.S. system as a whole. So whether it's the MLS, what are we at now? 28, 29, whatever the fuck number of teams. That's that number of academies. There's still like 5 times that amount of academies around the United States that's developing players.
Right. Like, for instance, Josh Sargent.
Relying on MLS.
Josh Sargent never was in an MLS academy, but he was still.
He would be now, though.
Well, no, because he went to an independent academy.
He played for Gallagher. He would have been with St. Louis right now.
Oh, so Gallagher's now attached to St. Louis FC?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. But before that, Gallagher, that's where he was at. Mm-hmm. That's still our development. That's still a domestic. He said domestic. Domestic is all he said. He didn't even mention MLS. He just said domestically. And then if you look at McKennie, I mean, yeah, okay. He was in Germany, and then he came back, and then he went to Dallas, right?
In Weston's case, it's a little different because he never played. Apparently, he's talked about it in interviews. He never played soccer until he went to Germany, and that's where he grew the love for the sport. And he was there for 3 years, and he came back to the U.S. where he's spent the rest of the time with FC Dallas.
Correct. 9 years old, you got a lot more development to go, and he came back at 9. So that's a lot. You can't say his 3 years in Germany was what did it. And if you go up to Reyna was with New York City. That's also MLS. Mm-hmm. So that's not true that it's not MLS, that MLS is doing nothing. Joe Scally, MLS. Tyler Adams, New York Red Bull. So to say that the MLS academies, now granted, there are not enough of them. I would like more academies to putting out more good talent. Seems to be the same. We always mention the same academies over and over again. That's got to stop. There's got to be more than like a handful of academies pumping out good players. It's got to be everyone in MLS has got to be pumping out good players. West, Gio, Pulley all spent their youth in Europe, and it absolutely mattered. Nobody says it didn't matter.
It's not all of their youth. It's some of their youth.
That's some of their youth. Nobody says it doesn't matter. He's saying that the U.S. development part, the domestic development, wasn't good enough. Well, it had to be good enough because they ended up being good players. Not world-class players, but you can't discount what happened here. We can't go back. You will look at 10 years ago and how fucking shitty things were, and now look at now and go say they're still shitty? No, they're not perfect, but they're a lot better than 10 years ago. It's an evolution, and we're not done with that evolution. I hope there's a lot more to go here, and things do need to get better.
This is the big talking point. The problem is that MLS academies aren't pumping out basically they're not pumping out elite players. The MLS academies as a whole are still in their infancies. I know that we talk about this a lot, and it's kind of it sounds like an excuse as a whole, but it wasn't so long ago that not all of MLS academies were even free.
That's correct.
There were still academies that you had to pay hand over fist, like $5,000 plus, just to play for. Now things are free. It's going to take time, guys. We're seeing improvement, vast improvement. You're looking at a lot of the youth players that are playing in the youth national teams, and a lot of them are coming from MLS academies. There are still some that are attached to other clubs, but the vast majority of them are MLS academies. Now, maybe there is a question of whether or not USSF is pushing MLS academy players, but I feel like you're still going to go out and try to get the best players you can get, regardless, when you have your national teams call up. But it's still very early in the process.
Yes.
And it's going to take time for it to develop, and a lot of it comes down to the coaching that we have available to us. That takes time to develop too, or bring in, for that matter. Especially
when it costs a fucking arm and a leg to get your licenses in this fucking country.
So
which is ridiculous.
And I will say, one thing that I definitely agree with Tact when it comes to development as a whole, when it comes to our youth, is there needs to be more futsal. There needs to be more volunteering between just people who enjoy the sport. Because I mean, I've been talking about Jackson's time with Noblesville United. He's picking up soccer and everything like that. I haven't volunteered to coach for him because I don't want to squash the potential enjoyment from him. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I if I'm out there coaching and I start getting down on him, I feel like that's just going to shut him down. So I don't want to do that right now. I'll squash his joy later, but it's the same thing. I'm sitting there on the sideline watching some of the coaches. He's had some good coaches. He's had some really bad coaches. And I'm sitting on the sideline going like, oh my God, why is he doing this? Not Jackson, but why is the coach doing this? Or why are we doing this during practice? You should be focusing more on this, the basics, especially at the younger age. But it's going to take more volunteering from people who enjoy the sport, not necessarily just fathers who want to get $20 taken off of their AYSO fees. So,
yeah. Well, again, I coached Nick's teams when he was younger. And I'm not saying that killed it for him, but he was just never really interested in soccer to begin with, playing it because of his feet. He had to have multiple surgeries on his feet. So he's born without an arch. So anyhow, besides that, though, the point being is 15 years ago, our development was at 0, the number 0. And now, okay, we're not going to just jump to 10. That's going to take time. So right now we're at like 3 or 4. But 3 or 4 is so much better than 0. And I don't think you look at a lot of teams right now are struggling to pump out elite players. I mean, not just us. Germany's going through a struggle right now. Like, where's their elite center forward? I mean, it seems like everybody has that problem now.
Yeah.
Like, so.
It's questionable whether or not the system itself is fucking that system over, but yeah.
I'm not saying there isn't a lot to fix. There's obviously a lot to fix. But what I am saying is you cannot ignore the progress that has been made. And by just saying we're shit, that's like ignoring the evolution itself. You can't do that. You have to accept that things have gotten better and say we need to keep pushing and make it even better. But to just say, well, we have nothing to show. Pulisic's an anomaly and everything else. And that's just not true. Pepe, yes, did he take trips to Mexico? But he spent a whole fucking lot of time here. All right, we can keep scrolling down through these, but
yeah, I mean, Aronson. I guess both Aronsons at that point now. At this point, Luca De La Torre. Although, again, he did move over to England early in his career.
15 is not. That's a freshman in high school. Again, you've learned a lot of soccer up until that point. And they brought Fulham brought him over there for a reason. They saw some talent already, right? So he could have been totally broken before he went over there. Scally, totally our product. Ream, totally an MLS product. Richards, totally an MLS product. Trusty, totally. I mean, some of these players, are they elite? No. Trusty's not elite. I'll give you that. But you're not going to fill a whole team already with elite players. We're not there yet in the evolution.
And that I feel like there's only like handful of countries, maybe 2 at most, that have consistently pump out elite players.
Brazil, Argentina.
I mean, quite frankly, even a number of European teams too. I mean, at the very minimum, if they don't produce elite players, they're producing very well-rounded, incredibly gifted players still.
I mean, you look at England,
but
I mean, that team's not full of elite players. There's some elite players on the team. Obviously, Harry Kane. I don't think that team's stacked. I mean, the English think it's stacked with elite players, but I don't believe that. I look at some of those players and go, I watched them play in the Premier League. Some of them aren't that good. They're not elite players. But again, they get down to the definition of what you think elite is, or what I think world class is, or what you think, sufficiently average, or whatever. It gets into that. But you have to admit that there's a lot of American flags on this. Turner. Ours.
I mean, Turner, mind you, goalkeepers are a bit different in that sense, but Turner didn't actually pick up the sport until he was like 14 or 15 years old.
I know.
Freshman in high school before he picked it up. And all of a sudden now he's a starting goalkeeper for the United States.
Right. Booth.
I mean, there's different routes for everybody in this sense. And of course, we do have our players who aren't U.S. developed.
They're 100% foreign.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
You got Des, Jedi, Musa, Tillman, Ballo. All of these players are not developed by United States national team, the system, and that's fine.
And we're totally cool with that. But all we're saying is, or I'm saying, it ain't a black hole. You want to see a black hole? Go back 10 years and go watch Breck Shea play. That's a fucking black hole of U.S. development. And it was horrible to be a part of that and watch it happen because it was depressing. Yeah, but Richards got his pro start at Bayern. That doesn't matter. S27.
Richards was S27 was saying how Richards wasn't necessarily MLS developed, or he is an MLS. He was developed by MLS's academy system.
Absolutely.
And he was developed by the rest of whatever. I'm guessing Dallas. I'm guessing that's where he's probably from.
Yes,
or that vicinity at least. That youth system leading into the FC Dallas Academy system. So again, the system itself is not perfect, and there's lots of room that we can grow. Quite frankly, once the United States actually does grow and develop in that youth sector, I'd be shocked if we don't just all of a sudden just steamroll the rest of the world.
Here's the point.
We have the numbers. Go.
The point is, Richards didn't go over to Bayern at 18, and because he was just a great physical specimen. No, Bayern watched his ass play, and they said, that kid has a lot of fucking talent. He is quite the developed player. In fact, when he signed, they played him in the U.S. tour immediately. He started games for them in the U.S. tour. So obviously they believed in him already. Now, was he the complete player? Hell no, he wasn't a complete player. He had more to learn. Obviously, they go over there and learn about how to play against elite players and elite teams. And it's a whole different process. You become more wise. But he had the tools already to get there. That's all we can provide. Because you're not going to get that kind of wisdom playing in MLS. You're not going to. So if you've got the tools and a team notices it, they bring you there. Those FC Dallas has got to get credit, get some credit for developing a player who had the tools. And so, yes, he goes over there and he learns and he becomes more wise of a player. He goes on loans. Now he's at Crystal Palace. We'll see what happens. But obviously he had the tools already leaving Dallas. It wasn't the full toolbox. He still needed to add things. But again, does that mean we just discount everything he learned at FC Dallas? That's not fair. It's not even fair. Our youth development system is broken. Listen, if you think it's broken now, BMR, you missed it. Because this is way better than the broken shit we had before. And it's not fixed because we still have pay to play. We still have all kinds of problems. We have shitty coaches. Yeah. We have a horrible licensing system that you got to pay $1,000 million in order to become a coach. We got all kinds of problems. We got a lot of communities out there we haven't even tapped into yet. So yes, but the word broken again. Broken?
Well, no, he's not wrong. He does go on to say, despite that, we are getting much better at development.
Amen.
It is still a broken system because if you really think about it, if you take away the MLS academies, and you could even lump in USL at this point because USL is starting to do their own academies and starting to develop their own players, bring them in through their system, and we'll see how this all works out in the long run. But you take that out, you still have all these massive academy clubs all around the United States where they're developing players, yes, but they're also developing players at a ridiculous sum to play. I mean, you look at Chicago, the Carmel, Zionsville, or whatever, Westfield, Fire, whatever the fuck name is,
right.
And you're looking at an easy $5K a year,
just
to be on the team.
In that case, it is broken but the problem is that's never going to get fixed unless a lot of things change about how clubs are awarded for developing players.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes, USSF can fix this now if they literally just simply say, hey, clubs who develop these players before they get to their MLS academies or whatever, they're going to get compensated if you sell these players off.
Right.
And just like the rest of the fucking world does it. If they just do this, you make the argument about the whole, the rest of the world does the pro and rel type of thing. But if they just did this simple thing, you would see development increase tenfold. Because if Noblesville United, I'm going to keep sticking with them, even though they don't necessarily. Indy Premier, there we go. Let's go with them because there's no Noblesville United team. If Indy Premier knew that they could develop players, and if they provide these players a path to the professional leagues and everything like that, and they get transferred, and they're going to get $250,000. I mean, they're absolutely going to go and cut down costs where they can, develop these players, and hope for the best.
Right. And they'll actually go out and research and find players they want to develop. Because that's what they do in Brazil. They go out to the parks, and they're like, oh, look at that kid. That kid's really good. Let's go talk to his parents and sign him, and we'll develop him, and then we'll sell him off to. So we don't have that. So if that's the case, and that's what you're talking about, then that's broken, and that's going to take a lot to fix, because there's so many people who make a living doing it the way it is now. They're resistant to changing that system because they got to pay their bills, and they got to pay, send their kids to college, and they got to pay their mortgages. And so, U.S. soccer would have to do something completely dramatic to change the way it is.
I mentioned USL starting to implement more academies in their system, quite frankly. But I mean, how many of those lower division teams would start funding more if they knew that, well, Chicago House could have, say, an academy team within Chicago, and let's just say Chicago picks up this 16-year-old kid that they're developing, and then all of a sudden he gets shipped off to Europe. How many more players do you think that Chicago House could produce if all of a sudden they're getting compensated for that?
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to help out all across the board. It doesn't, maybe not necessarily the podunk recreational program down the street or anything like that, but the academy teams who are actually developing the players. They're going to develop them and spend more money and invest more in the development itself if you have a path of income.
Here's the tough part for a lot of the people running those pay-to-play academies. And I've talked to one guy. He said the tough part is the transition. Let's say tomorrow USSF says, U.S. Soccer says, no more pay-to-play. Well, there's all kinds of legal boundaries first to make that stop that system from occurring, because legally you can't tell people they can't make a living teaching somebody something. So there's one problem right away. Number two, it's the transition from doing it the way we are now to having no pay to play, and then moving to a system where the club or the academy is going to have to wait for the fruits to bear. What are they supposed to do in between that time period, right? Because they need to make money. Well, that's going on. That could be everything from, giving players sponsorship, right? U.S. Soccer sponsors players for a certain number of years, but it's complicated. So it's not going to get fixed overnight either way, because of legal boundaries, because, of course, people opposing that transition. And there's also the closing the gap between the time it is announced and the time that so the other way to do it, of course, is you sign a contract with every player that you have that is pay to play. It says if they become a pro, you have to pay them back all the money from that they gave you for training, and then you'll get a percentage of whatever they make as a professional from the teams that buy them. That's another way to do it, but it's not easy. It will be complicated. That's all I'm saying.
It's a tough system. It's the same concept as far as saying, like, hey, we're gonna get rid of using gasoline and oil products, and we're gonna go this. I'm like, well, there's a huge industry that's not just like driving vehicles where we use oil. I mean, the plastic that we drink or drinks from have oil in them. I mean, it's not as simple as just simply saying, hey, we're gonna stop that.
Well,
and payments. We're going to stop. Teams can no longer take payments, etc. You can't just do that. It's not going to happen. There has to be a change. There has to be a change in there.
Also, all the what's used to make the batteries. There's cobalt, and there's another. No. Anyhow, those are all finite. Okay. The main things. So it's not going to last forever, even if you move absolutely to electric. That's why people are talking about hydrogen now, right?
What is that shit called? Fuck. Somebody have in the chat. I know, but
Bolivia. There's a lot of it in Bolivia, so they're mining it up.
Well,
plus
there's areas not
lithium. Thank you. God damn it, Derek.
There are places you can get it from, but I mean, most developed countries, especially in the West, don't necessarily want to be ripping apart the land to get to it, and endure the effects of the destruction of the land, if you will.
Well, that's why it's mostly done in Africa and Bolivia.
Yeah.
For the lithium, the cobalt, because we don't want mining, right? It's okay to have those countries fuck up their countries to dig up all that shit so we can have batteries.
Here soon.
I mean, but again, it's finite, so you're going to have to find another solution because lithium isn't forever. There's only so much of it. All right, so hydrogen. That's why they're talking about hydrogen now. So we'll see what develops, but all right. So that's it. That's that in the bag. I guess again, it may come down to semantics mostly because we're talking about things like elite and world class, and what's elite to you might not be elite to me, or what's elite to you is not elite to me, etc.
That's the thing, though. That we talked about how the generation now is incredibly spoiled with what what we've got in front of us.
Right.
You're able to watch like 8 different leagues between like 3 different streaming services. I mean, everything's readily available to you. Development wise, there's more developing now than there was 20 years ago. You got a healthy domestic league that isn't going under anytime soon. Where it barely survived when you and I started watching it in the 90s. To use an anecdotal experience here, I was taking Jackson to one of his indoor games last winter, and we walked in, and they got the TVs playing games and stuff. 3/4 of his team were watching insert random EPL team here.
Right.
And the other quarter were off goofing around doing normal kid stuff at the age of 7 and 8.
Right.
But I'm saying the point is that I'm making there is that even back in my day, the entire team would have been off goofing around, even if there was a game on.
Oh yeah.
Who cares?
For sure.
But now there's a culture developing as a whole where more people have been raised with the sport itself, that you have 8-year-old kids who are getting ready to go play a 40-minute indoor game instead of running around, goofing around, warming up or whatever. They're watching an actual EPL game.
Yeah, and it goes.
That's culture.
Early 2000s. I was a huge Brian McBride fan. I had to go through. You wouldn't even imagine the schedules I had to go through to find out when I could watch a Fulham game on television, and it was a huge event every morning. When there was a Fulham game I could watch, because they weren't all on TV. So if you got a Fulham game, you would have marked that shit down on your calendar so you can watch Brian McBride play.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to be my favorite player back in the early 2000s. And I get up in the morning, make the breakfast. The whole morning was about that game. And now we're just fucking spoiled. That shit's all over the place. I can watch over a weekend. I usually watch up to 10 games for this show alone. Sometimes more, depending. So, I mean, things are changing. They are changing for the better. I think if you aren't as old as I am or old as Brett is, it's hard to have that perspective. Like, oh, things are so much better now because you're living in the now. And you didn't have to live through the garbage years that we had to live through.
And I'm experiencing with my brother's kids. My brother's kids are in their early 20s at this point. But they grew up watching all the games that we watched, taking them to Indy 11 games when they're not necessarily young kids anymore, but I mean, it's a different experience as a whole. The development's not necessarily just on the pitch, but it's also, like I said, just the development of culture in general.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going. That's where the biggest improvement's going to be. Coaching be damned. I mean, coaching will help you, obviously, but the interest of playing. Jackson's not even he's getting into soccer at this point, but he's kind of as far as being into soccer, he's kind of behind some of the players he's played with. And that'll all catch up. He'll all catch up if he continues to play. But he's over my parents' house, and he's like taking painter's tape and putting up X's on their garage door, and he's spending time outside just kicking the ball against the door, trying to hit the X's. That's aside from what I'm telling him to do. He did that all on his own. I'm like, oh, look at that. Shit.
Well,
things are happening.
And when I grew up and went to high school in the late 80s, and I played, we'll go back to my days playing for Fort Knox High School. There were no academies. Like the best players played in high school. They didn't play in academies back then. There were no academies and development academies. And our team was spoiled because I don't know if you know this, Fort Knox was an armor base. That's for tankers. So every single fucking kid had lived in Germany and played soccer in Germany, including me. We all grew up playing soccer in Germany. So we were leaps and bounds above East Hardin, West Hardin, Elizabethtown, all the surrounding teams we had to play in other high schools in our division. We slaughtered those teams because they were in the dark ages of soccer. And now that's different. That's so fucking changed. Nobody who's any good plays high school soccer. It's rare occasion.
Yeah, I mean, especially when USSF made that ever swiping rule with the DA academies that if you play for a DA academy, you can't play for your high school team because DA academies are playing 10 months out of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still necessarily a rule because I don't know if the DA academy system as a whole is still the way it was, say, 7-10 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, you look at Carmel, I guarantee you their top 20 to 30 kids are not playing for Carmel High School. And I'm sorry, guys, we're using indie schools here as an example. But
yeah, the best players do not play in high school anymore. And then here's a decision I had to make my senior year because when I moved to Indiana, soccer and tennis were played at the same season. And I was a top tennis player. So I'm like, okay, I got to pick one now. I picked tennis. Why? I had a better chance at getting a scholarship because I knew I was going to be one of the top 30 players in Indiana. And so I picked tennis instead of soccer, and it killed me to do it.
I'm curious how much of scholarships were really going around to soccer in those days anyways.
None. Hardly any.
We're talking about when you were in college. What was that, like early 90s, mid-90s, early 90s?
So, yeah, I went 90 to 95. I went to IU.
Even then, you, I mean, I know obviously IU had a soccer team. And they had history behind it already, even at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I'd be curious to go back and take a look to see how many of those people on that range, 92, 95 even, how many of them were actually getting, say, scholarships or even full rides for that matter.
So I didn't end up getting a scholarship in tennis because I was, I think the end of the year I was ranked 26 in the state. That's not good enough. My brother got a scholarship to Ball State, and he was the number 2 player in the state. He went to Ball State on scholarship, tennis player. So, and he got offers from West Point. He got numerous offers. He just didn't want to go very far from mommy and daddy. He wasn't like me, right? Yeah. I left Derek. I had a similar decision, but I picked soccer over tennis. I just like soccer more. I loved them both. So it was really hard decision. It was very pragmatic decision on my part. It didn't work out, but yeah. All right. So I think we've done development, Brett. I mean, we could do this all night. Honestly.
We could have an entire shit, man. We did about at least a 20-minute segment there, maybe more.
Yeah.
So,
do we want to move on to FIFA? Get that done with?
Ironically, that's exactly what I was pulling up. I don't know if that was ironic, but
all
coincidentally.
Right. Perfect. Is this a video?
Yeah. So this is from Men in Blazers, and basically it's a short from her talking about FIFA's decision to give Saudi Arabia the 2034 before they even announced the 2027 Women's World Cup.
Yeah, pretty despicable. But I do like his quote here. Infantino and FIFA want to take us for fools. So I know that Alexi Lalas went on this thing where he's like, don't bother getting upset because it went to Saudi Arabia because there's money, etc. Blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what upsets anybody. I'm not upset that Saudi Arabia got a World Cup. I knew that was coming. Everybody knew that was coming. You know what upsets me? Is the bullshit reasons. They just tell us the truth. Don't fucking fuck me in the ass and tell me it's a finger. All right. I'm telling you, don't bullshit me. I'm calling you out for bullshit. Don't tell me you did it because it's the way to have more inclusion and all this other fucking bullshit. No, it's a simple money fucking deal. And Infantino knows that, so don't blow 100%. Smoke, motherfucker.
Well, we're talking about having the World Cup move around the federations, if you will. And we just had one in 2022 at Qatar. Literally a stone throw.
That was
from Saudi
bought.
Arabia.
Bought.
So you have that. Then you're in the Americas for 2026. Then we have Portugal, Morocco, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina
Yeah.
for what is that, 2030?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we're back. We're back
We're back.
to the Middle East.
Not Australia.
Asia. We're
Not
back to Asia.
Australia, not Japan, not South Korea, but like literally right next door to Qatar.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying. So it's and Herc's gonna go into this. But I mean, you basically, by doing this 2030 World Cup where you're in Africa, you're in Europe, and you're in South America, you're basically taking away those districts away from being considered. Oh, we're already there, 2030. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
All I'm asking, and I think Herc would say this too, all I'm asking is don't blow smoke up my fucking asshole. Don't
Hey,
flout.
we like money, and the oil barons gave us a lot of it.
Just say what it is. Right now, financially for FIFA, this is the best decision because it'll mean more money for FIFA and that we can spread around the world so soccer programs across the world can develop. Don't give me this flowery shit about inclusion and being open-minded and all this other shit. We know what fucking Saudi Arabia is. There are no pillars of fucking... And who is a pillar? We just had a World Cup in Russia. There are no pillars. We're no pillars. We're getting our fucking world. We all do stinky things. All countries do. But don't flower it up. Don't flower it up. Be real about it. You know, it is kind of crazy, though, because, you know, Russia's like their whole team's banned from playing in a World Cup because of what's going on. So we're going to punish the soccer players from Russia for what's going on in Ukraine. But guess what? In tennis, they don't. Russian tennis players are allowed to continue to play on the tour. So why are we punishing the soccer team? Why did FIFA make that decision? You think the fucking soccer players that play in Russia who are Russian are all for this war? Or they have had some decision in making the war happen? It's very odd that the way these decisions get made. We got a World Cup. Didn't we just do some horrible shit for like 30 years in the middle in fucking Iraq? And so these value judgments that we're making, maybe we just drop it all and say we don't care about any of those value judgments. And I guess that's what Infantino is saying, but don't butter it up, buddy, because guess what? No one's perfect. And this isn't some world peace mission you're on. This is about one thing: dollar fucking bills, bitch. And we all know it. Hey, Siri, play Ditties. It's all about the Benjamins. Dollar Dollar Bill, y'all. How about that song? Let's get that one going.
Now, I want anybody who's listening to this show who just had their Alexa or whatever, not Alexa, I guess it'd be a Siri device, Apple device.
Go off.
Play that song. Post it in the comment section down below, guys.
Yeah, mine didn't. All right, let's play it. I'm sorry. It's aggravating. Yes.
For $5 says another Winter World Cup, I guess.
It will be. Hey, thank you, Lane Kiffin.
Ooh.
I'd like to pretend you actually really are Lane Kiffin. It'd be cool if you actually watched the show.
It'd be pretty cool if you were. All right. All right, here we go.
All right, Matthew.
FIFA
let's
and Johnny
play.
Infantino think we are fools. This is Shooting
Yes.
Straight, presented by Camarena, the most awarded tequila.
We need to get a booze advertiser, not necessarily our typical KYs or poop scoops or Wonder Boner advertiser, but we need to get an actual like booze advertiser here.
We do, and I think that'll happen once Diego creates his own line of wine or vodka.
Do you think Diego would do vodka?
I don't know. I know he would do weed.
You almost have to go into the stereotypes there and say tequila, but
No, I think he'd do weed. You know, that's
it's possible.
his vice of choice. So, I mean, dude's
Awfully
so
awkward for us here in Indy to be advertising anything about weed. That's never going to get approved until the entire United States approves it.
No, they don't arrest anybody for that here anymore.
Advertising, I don't think would be perfectly fine, but I'm just saying, those of us in the chat who are from Indy would not necessarily get to participate.
In a weed commercial, like Mood.
No, to participate within the advertiser, if you will.
Well, Mood sponsored the show briefly. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was that weed.
I'm not saying that we can't say the words, Derek. I'm just saying people cannot partake in the products that the advertisers are advertising.
Bullshit. I ordered Mood. I had it delivered right here to my fucking place. It's perfectly legal. It's legal in all 50 states. Yeah, it's one molecule off or something like that from the THC. So it's legally legal. It's legally legal. Okay, that's good.
Legally legal.
Yes. All right. Here, it's legal here. All right, go ahead.
Uruguay should host a Centennial World Cup, they say. They want to have 6 different countries, 3 different continents host that World Cup. And in doing so, they eliminate these different countries in the bidding process. So, miraculously, Australia pulls out and they announce that Saudi Arabia will have the 2034 World Cup. And the worst part, they've not even announced the 2027 Women's World Cup. They announced 2 Men's World Cup before the Women's World Cup. Gianni Infantino and FIFA want to take us for fools. And I'm just shooting it straight.
Yeah, and he didn't even imagine. I don't know if you can find that quote from Infantino about the announcement for Saudi Arabia. It was on Twitter.
I probably could, but it's not worth the time during the show.
Well, yeah, it's just the usual fluff. That this is a way for it. Soccer brings the world together, and what a better way to show our openness to change and whatever than to include. So if somebody has it, I wish they would say it, because I
know we just had a World Cup in the Middle East, but we're going to announce the next one that we haven't announced yet to be in the Middle East.
I mean, listen, why do you think F1 has all those races in Bahrain? And it's money. It's as simple as that. But at least F1 isn't blowing smoke up my ass about it. They're not. They're like, okay, it's a tourist destination where the race is, and we make a lot of fucking money. They pay us a lot to come here. Like, don't lie to me, dude. We know why you're there. That's all I'm asking. That's it. I'm done.
It's their business as a whole. I mean, they make money hand over fist by having it anywhere in the world. They don't pay taxes. So, I mean, I understand that obviously they can get their pockets lined a little bit more by, some bribes here and there. It's a little under the table, but they're going to make the money regardless. It's just a stupid thing. And I like Tax Point in the sense that the fact that you're having games, when I say games in South America, you're literally having one game per country in the opening day of games. And then on the next World Cup, not our World Cup, so 2030 World Cup. And then the rest of the time it's going to be in Morocco and is it Portugal?
Portugal and Spain.
Yeah. So you're covering Europe, you're covering Africa, you're covering South America. We just had one in North America. So I guess that means we're supposed to go back to Asia.
Asia proper is getting fucked, i.e. Korea, Japan, Australia, China. So there you go. Football's final frontier for $5.69. Thank you. Football's final frontier. Places that should get the World Cup to grow the game: Cyprus, Bhutan, Finland, Muncie, Vatican City. I was like, wait a minute, these are jokes, right? So yes, they are. Thank you, Mr. 69. All right, let's move on. You want to do Berhalter's 23? Is that
we
what
can
we're gonna
do that. We can do that, Derek. I got that pulled up right now.
All right, we didn't even say we were going to do this tonight, but we are. We're going to pick. Here's the pool. I think realistically, this is the pool. We got to pick 23 out of here. So we got to eliminate some motherfuckers from this list till we get to 23. We could start at the bottom because that's easy. Just mark out Pefok right away.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Can you do that? Can you mark them out? Or okay, you're probably.
Give me just a few seconds here.
Okay, no problem. And then, probably going to bring 4 wingers, more than likely just 4. I can't see it.
Hold on.
Okay,
I can share.
Do do do
Here,
do
and
do
I
do
can.
do 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 do. Bam!
I'm
Gone.
at white. Why is it white?
I know that's usually not the standard.
Get rid of there. Red.
So Pefok's out. Listen, I know Pefok just scored 2 goals. It's fucking wonderful. But let's face it, it's just Balogun and Pepe. Haji Wright had another useless game for Coventry City. So
hey, you know, Pefok scored 2 goals to keep him in the later stages of the Pokal. And guess who bowed out in that same stage?
Bayern Munich.
I was going with Union Berlin because we're talking about Pefok, but
but Bayern's gone. They got beat by Saarbrücken. I mean, Saarbrücken in the 3rd fucking division? Are you fucking shitting me? How do you pull that off? That's unbelievable. Just across the French border, too. Wow. I didn't watch the game, but Jesus, your 3rd stringer should win that game.
So Scally and Pefok are moving on to the next round. The other person who's moving on to the next round, Reyna.
Reyna, yeah. Okay.
Had a pretty solid match against Hoffenheim.
Very frustrating match to watch. Very frustrating. I'm sorry, but motherfuckers don't pass to him when especially when he's fucking wide open. Was it Royce at one point was on the right? Reyna's got nobody covering him on the top of the box. He's waving his fucking hands. Hey, pass me the ball. What does Royce do? He puts his fucking head down and dribbles straight at Reyna, bringing the defender with him. Goes past Reyna, does nothing with the ball, achieves nothing, and wastes an open pass on the upside of the box. And then these morons, when Gio Reyna's boxed in or they're boxed in, they pass it to Gio Reyna, which he has no option but just to pass it to somebody else right away. He usually connected. He was like 100% on those. But I found the game extremely frustrating to watch.
I'm spacing the guy who plays on the left hand side too in that match.
Oh, the left winger. I wrote
his
his name down because he's the English kid, Bino Gittins. That selfish little prick, fucking selfish fucking prick. There were so many times Reyna was wide the fuck open, and he tried to dribble through 3 fucking players.
Hey, good news is though he got the assist in their lone goal because Gio received the ball on a switch of play, and he calmed down, slowed the play, waited for everybody to get into the attack, and did a nice little easy pass into the box, then cross it, goal.
At least he got to play centrally too.
Yeah. Ironically, with that play, he stemmed from being out left. But yes, he was centrally 99% of the time he was out there. So if you go back, you can go on Twitter. If you guys haven't watched the match itself, and watching the 70-some-odd minutes, in those specific plays that he touches the ball and does stuff with, feels like there's so few and far between. But when you go back and you watch his every touch, and you start watching what he actually does with everything, you're going, why aren't they passing it to him more? Why
I know.
isn't he playing more? I don't know.
Well,
He was the most creative option on that team, that match, in my opinion.
I just get the feeling sometimes they're like, oh man, don't give it to him. I get the feeling that some of the players have like some sort of angst. Like they know that they're going to get shown up or he's going to do something special. So, I mean, the number of times I fucking paused the video and rewound it and watch it and get him. He's fucking sitting there wide open and he's got his hands down like this, like, pass me the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And they don't. And you're like, what the fuck are you seeing? Lift your goddamn head up. So, like, it's been frustrating watching Dortmund, because fucking Terz keeps playing him out wide. And now I was so excited. He's going to play more centrally. And people just didn't get him the ball. He didn't get to do what he can do, and we know what he can do. So anyhow, sad to me, very frustrating. I'm really just almost turned off watching Dortmund right now because it's terrorist ball. A lot of it is. And he plays so conservative sometimes, Terzic. But then in this game, he kind of opened up. And I thought, okay, that's going to serve Reyna well. They're opening up a little more. No, didn't touch the ball enough. He should have touched it twice as much as he did. Maybe that's me being wishful thinking. I'm sure it is.
100%.
And, but, you know, it was almost like watching Josie at Sunderland again. The number of times Josie was open and no one would pass him the ball. No one would even think about passing. He could be standing all alone at the top of the box. They're like, nah, ain't passing to you, bitch. Very frustrating. All right.
Derek, I hear a crying baby upstairs real quick. When I say baby, I mean a 5-year-old. She's acting like a baby. But I'm going to bow off here for just a second. Why don't you go over the midweek Yank report real quick? We'll come back to this in just a second, okay?
All right. Midweek report. I just mentioned Reyna, how frustrating it was watching that. It's very irritating. But then we did have we had Dietz and Green go 90 for Greuther Fürth in a loss to a 4th division fucking team in the Pokal. They lost to Hamburg. Not Hamburg, Hamburg with an O. Just unbelievable loss. Just astonishing. Not as astonishing as Bayern losing, but pretty astonishing. Brendan Aronson got 20 minutes for Union Berlin. Didn't do much in his 20 minutes. Aronson's going to have to take a deep, long look in the mirror soon because he's not having an effect. I will say this, at least his brother, who came in for the last 10 minutes, I think, of his game, got the assist. So Paxton, when he's coming on for the last 10, 20 minutes, is having an impact. Aronson's not having. His older brother's not having that impact. And that is scary right now. Paredes got 25 against Leipzig. Scally went 90. Pefok got his 2 goals, went 65 in the win against Maloney's Heidenheim. Maloney was yanked at halftime. Probably because they knew they needed to score some goals, and he's not going to provide that. Terrence Boyd went 75. And then we moved to Taylor Booth, who went 64 for Utrecht in a win. And this is the cup game in Holland, I think, as well. Big news is that Conrad got 13 for Eibar. So he's back from the injury. First game, he was back from injury. He just rode pine in the 18. But this time, he comes on, he gets a goal, and Eibar win the game. So let's hope this continues to be the trend, that Conrad can now find some starting minutes and get out of what I would call a serious rut that he's been in for some time. Alex Borto went 90 for Fulham's U21s versus Feyenoord's U21s in a win. So another guy maybe to just keep an eye on for youth teams going forward, maybe Olympics, maybe backup goalkeeper. I don't know. We already talked about Reyna, how frustrating that was. Brooks went the full 90, by the way, against Reyna. And he did make one visible error during the game. But for the rest of the game, he was great. He was great at distribution out of the back. Brooks was solid the whole game, outside of one mistake.
Man, I know in their one goal, the keeper had a little heart-to-heart with Brooks on something. But I don't know what it was about. Because the guy who scored wasn't necessarily Brooks' man to mark.
Right. It's hard to say sometimes, but Brooks is the leader of the back three. So Brooks may not be something specifically Brooks did. Might be how Brooks organized the back three.
Hey, get on these fuckers about this.
Right, exactly. Also, Ream and Jedi were in the 18. No need for them to play because they won. In fact, amazingly, Devin Tanton, who was a former U.S. youth player, but now is a Columbia youth player, actually got time and extra time for Fulham. So he was on the U21 team. He got time in this game. My question is, yes, Conrad did score. He did score. I did say that, by the way, BMR. He did score. So maybe Conrad's back. We'll see. But yeah, kind of odd. I just don't know why we let Devin Tanton go to or didn't fight Colombia harder for a guy that's maybe going to start getting some minutes for Fulham in cup games. Chandler was in the 18.
But it is tough. It is tough when it comes to youth players and their chances to get abroad. I mean, all Colombia has to do is give him a call up, and I don't know how old is this kid.
I think he's 20 or 19. 19, I think.
So, I mean, they come and knock, and they give him a chance with the big boys. I mean, at that point, we're going to give every U20 kid a chance at the big boys.
I mean, we gave him chances. He was on the U15s and the U17 teams.
Sure. I'm saying youth is understandable. I'm just saying that.
He's not good enough for our U21 team anymore?
No, but I have no idea to what level that he was called into the Colombian team.
U21s.
Was he youth? Was he U21s?
U20s or U21s, somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, then I imagine he's probably not tied at all.
He's not. He's not tied. No. He didn't have to make one-time switch or anything like that to do that. So, we'll see.
Point, though, how many of the Mexican-American players do we have that have bounced back and forth throughout their youth career? So, it happens.
There were a number of them, yeah.
Look at Buck
Noel. Chandler, it was in the 18 for Eintracht Frankfurt, along with Paxton Aronson, who went the last 10. And unlike his older brother, as I mentioned earlier, he actually assisted on a goal for the win for Frankfurt in the Pokal. All right. That's basically everybody. I could get into some more, like the Dordrecht guys, Dordrecht in Holland in the second division. They also played a game, and we saw Hilton go 65 at left back and Osadina go 1 minute at left wing back or left winger. So there's that. That was pretty much this midweek. And who played? All right, we can get back to this.
All right.
Oh, all right. So we got to mark off 2 of these, I think, at the winger spot. Koleosho ain't coming yet, guys. So I know everybody wants him to come, but that's going to be up to him. It's not even up to Greg. Greg has already reached out to Koleosho. Greg
wants 2 for the the CPs there. I thought that was sorry. I thought it was like 4 CP. Okay. No. Remember more.
So the question is, do you take Booth or do you take Zendejas? Because I think Paredes, Aronson, and CP are like givens.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument and say, like, Aronson's not really playing well as a whole.
Yes, you could. He's been playing like horse poo.
But to that point, though, Booth just came back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course, we're going to have a couple of weeks here before the call-ups or before the roster's even announced. Not even a couple of weeks, I guess. It'd be like a week, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be about a week, imagine. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to probably say Booth is probably going to get left off.
I think you're probably right.
Because Zendejas will be brought in regardless, I imagine.
And we're talking Greg. So Booth's probably more likely to be, an Olympic guy, right? Olympics.
Yeah, he's Olympic age. So, I don't know if he'll go to the Olympics. Again, his team's Utrecht's going to have to release him.
Right. No guarantee of that.
Mm-mm.
So I think those are your 4 wingers. Zendejas, I know he played horrible at the Gold Cup, folks. We are very aware of that. We said it on this show.
Many a time.
He tried way too hard to be the star of that team that needed a star, but he tried too hard and it didn't go off. So he needs to just become a part of the the fabric of the team. He doesn't need to be the superstar on this team. He just needs to play his role. But more than likely, you're going to see CP and Aronson start, would be my guess for Berhalter.
CP and Aronson? Yeah, probably, yeah.
On the wings? Yeah, with no way up.
Unless he goes back to his old ways and throws Reyna out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. If he plays a 4-3-3, that might be what he does. If he plays a 4-2-3-1, better be Reyna in that middle. But more than likely, I mean, I'm not saying more likely. It could happen. That's a good point. But the big loss here is, of course, Weah. That's why there's room for Zendejas on this roster.
God, man, you remember at some point in the last World Cup qualifier, Weah wasn't even a starter for us. We had Areola out there, and it took an injury before the last game of a window for Weah to get brought in as a starter.
Right.
And
Yeah.
been starter ever since, of course.
Areola Morris. Yep. It's crazy. All right. Midfield. Reyna, Luca De La Torre, Musa, and Wes, I think, are guaranteed. And I think
so, yeah.
I think the guy you got to wipe off here to get to year 23 is Maloney. I don't think Maloney showed enough. And I don't think he's needed in this window versus Trinidad and Tobago. We don't need a destroyer.
I agree. I agree with you on that. That's probably the best description as far as why to mark off Maloney at this point. We really don't need one.
We don't need one for this.
I mean, we're not. You're right. Reyna, Luca, Musa, and Wes are guarantees. Johnny showed more in the offensive side of things and can still play that role.
And defense, yeah.
And Tillman's definitely going to be the Reyna replacement or
backup. Yep.
Backup to Reyna. So it's got to be Maloney at that point.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is easy too. There's going to be 4. It's the first 4. Dest, Lund, Jedi, Scally. Yeah. I don't think Dewan Jones and Tolkien
plus that
are going to be there.
That should be an eye.
Even though I think that Tolkien's shown a lot, I think that Pete isn't always fair. I mean, listen, it's his opinion, but I think Tolkien has a little bit higher ceiling than Pete thinks he does. I think if Tolkien goes off to Europe and gets to play for a mid-table to lower-table Bundesliga team, I think he gets wiser. I don't think his technical ability is that awful. I don't think it's as bad as Pete thinks it is. I think Tolkien's got more to give on the wisdom side. I think his skills are sufficient. I don't think he's actually any less skilled than Scally is. I think he just needs to learn how to play the game and learns to position himself better, to take opportunities. But we've seen Tolkien do some good things. So I'm not wiping out Tolkien here without also saying, okay, there's still potential this player can get better and become more wise, because I think he can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Tolkien as potential, I guess. When it came to the Gold Cup, I wasn't
he was
by any means.
He was not good there. Yeah.
I mean, of course he played against the only quality team we played up until Panama, though. He played against Jamaica, and then Jones played the remainder of the matches.
Yeah.
So that could have played a big factor there too.
Right.
I would have to see more, and I think Camp Cupcakes are where we're going to experience it, or if he goes abroad. But even if he goes abroad, I mean, look at Bello, look at Vines.
He's no Bello.
I'm not saying he's a Bello. I'm just saying,
yeah.
Look at them in the sense that they've gone abroad and they're still not necessarily even in contention at this point. Hell, we pulled up Lund out of nowhere, left field. Here's the player who made a full-time switch just to play for us.
Let's be fair to Vines. He's been injured like crazy.
Yeah, he's been injured. Yeah, it's been
so he's never really got a real chance to get a string of games together since he went there. So Sam Vines never got not because of the injuries, ever given himself a fair shot at this team because of those injuries. Yeah. He's never got a fair shot to play regularly for his club team. And they of course, Antwerp forgot to sign him up for Champions League. So that didn't help him either. All right. This is the toughest one though. CB. Center back. We know Ream and Richards are going. Brooks, yeah. I put Brooks on there because, listen, the way Brooks is playing right now for Hoffenheim, who are at the top of the table, not the top of the table, but near the top of the table in the Bundesliga, should be respected. But here's where it gets tricky. Even though Trusty is, okay, did he get burned by Arsenal? Yes. Do a lot of teams get burned by Arsenal? Yes. So I'm not holding that against Trusty, but I'm not sure Trusty's going to get the call. And even though McKenzie's starting most of the games for Genk, I don't know if he gets it called either. Is it Miles? Is the fourth center back?
I see Miles getting in there regardless. So I think Ream and Richards guaranteed. I want to feel like CCV's the third option.
I
think Miles is actually the third option.
Yeah.
And then it's going to come down to CCV, Trusty, McKenzie, and Zimmerman.
God, he loves him some Zimmerman, Brett.
I know. But you know what? Much like our conversation with Conrad last cycle, I mean, Zimmerman's what at this point? 28, 29?
Doesn't matter. I don't think age matters.
I normally would say no to that point either, but I'm like, we have two starting. We have three options before we even get to Zimmerman at that point. So at that point, similar to say like a goalkeeper, a third goalkeeper, do you bring in the aged veteran?
Well,
or do you bring in somebody like CCV who's getting experience at a European level, or McKenzie who's had a good European career for the most part?
But will Zimmerman still be playing in the playoffs? Will Miles still be playing for Atlanta in the playoffs come mid-November? So maybe you don't call either of them because the playoffs are still going on. Both of those teams are still in it. I will say Miles and Zim have pretty bad playoff records. Oh, you mean in MLS?
Yeah.
Yeah, Miles made some mistakes. I watched the Atlanta game yesterday. That was rough. But, I mean, can Berhalter call those two guys up? Both those teams are still in the playoffs. That's the thing. Are they going to still be in the playoffs mid-November? If they are, you can't call them up. So isn't it safer just to call up another European guy? And if so, is it Trusty or McKenzie? Somebody's going to have to not be on this team.
So, yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to where the teams are at, because Miles and Zimmerman are both playing in the playoffs at that point. I don't think either of them are going to get brought in.
Or maybe they need a rest after a whole MLS season. Maybe that's the excuse we'll use.
I think if Miles does not play, let's say Atlanta gets bounced, then I think Miles will be in there regardless.
So you think Miles prefers Berhalter prefers Miles over Zimmerman?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's not even that. Miles is the archetype for the recover center back option. The Richards second, if you will, because Ream and Zimmerman are of said same mold, just obviously varying in quality. So, I think if you have to play, with Ream, if you have to play with one person, you have a choice between Zimmerman and Miles. He's going to play Miles, guaranteed.
So we got to mark off Zimmerman and McKenzie and Trusty.
So, like I said, I'm fine with marking Zimmerman off because I think if everybody's available, I don't think Zimmerman's included.
Man, I'm telling you what, I will say this.
I think Trusty's out.
I will say this, Brett. Do not underestimate the love affair between Zimmerman and Greg Berhalter.
Hey, I understand Berhalter's love affairs with players. I mean, it took an entire cycle to get rid of a number of players.
Long.
Areola, even though Areola is still relatively, he was okay-ish.
Yeah, I mean, you knew what you're going to get.
Morris, roll on.
It's hard to believe Trusty's going to get fucked off this list, but he's going to.
I know. I mean, he just literally got into Sheffield's starting role.
3 games.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's got a couple games under his belt. I know.
And by the way, he's going to continue to be the starter on that team because the other guys are fucking god awful. They're fucking worse than he is. Yeah. So
Trusty might play himself into it come Copa.
God, you imagine
we're talking 4 center back options.
You imagine how pissed Trusty and McKenzie are going to be? They're like, listen, dude, we're over here in Europe busting our fucking balls. Trusty's going to be like, dude, I'm starting on a Premier League team, even though it's really not. It's a championship team playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But boy, they're going to be fucking enraged. But I think this is right. I think it's going to be Ream, Richard, CCV, and Miles.
Well, I mean, even McKenzie's got a question. CCV at that point, too. I mean, he's got to be in the same boat. I mean, you're talking about a guy who plays like he plays against 2 quality games a season when he plays Rangers. And then everybody else is SPL,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's in Champions League and stuff like that, but I mean,
if you talk to the Players Council,
I don't.
No, I mean, if you did, okay. So I would say that CCV is one of the most beloved characters and players on the team. So to leave him out would surprise me. But
I don't
Miles,
think he would be, but I'm just saying.
I mean, for me, Miles and Zimmerman are a fucking flip of the coin. It just depends on how fucking hard Berhalter's dick is when he wakes up in the morning, and then we'll know. Because he loves him some fucking Zimmerman. Like, he loves Zimmerman. Loves him. I think MLS players are taking a break for the November international break. Yeah.
Not players, playoffs. The playoffs are taking a break for the international break. But
do you think or do you know?
Says he thinks. Even if let's just say best case scenario, or we'll say best case for Greg at least, they do take the break. But I feel like Greg's going to be working with MLS teams enough because again, it's against Trinidad. I don't think Greg's going to call in Miles or Zimmerman if they're still in playoff contention, even if they take the break.
Because we know notoriously Atlanta's like fuck no.
They don't have a say. They don't have any push in this one, but they might simply say, "Hey, do us a solid here, man. We got a playoff still going on here. You don't need him here." And that's true. They don't. They don't need Miles for those games.
Yeah, they don't. So we'll see. I mean, this is the only tricky one, center back. It's the only tricky one we got. The rest of them have been fairly easy. And then we got goalkeeper, and that's fairly easy as well. Because Slonina, I think, is a more of an Olympics guy. I think it's going to be Turner Horvath calendar. I think that's probably what it's going to be.
Well, this is the argument, too, again, because I don't think Slonina is going to get released for the Olympics. It's going to be Brady and insert second person here.
I don't know why Oypen would do that.
Why would they? Why would they release him? Well, the Olympics are during the summer, so I mean, why would Chelsea release him for the Olympics? They're going to loan him back out to a new team at that point, and he'll be starting the preseason with that new team.
You don't think Oypen's going to take another loan?
It's possible. I've never seen. Again, my only experience with Chelsea's loan army is Miazga, and Miazga never played multiple seasons at a loanee.
I think, didn't he play at Reading for one season, then he went back again? I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know.
He was so all over the place. I know he started out at Reading. Anyhow, yeah, I just think it's going to be Turner Horvath. Stefan he's in a lot of...
He's at Man City, right?
Yeah, he's deep at Man City, as in not really even... He's not the backup anymore. At least when he was there before, he was the backup goalkeeper. Yeah. But he went to Middlesbrough. He had a really rough season of... Okay, Middlesbrough did fine. They were at the top of the table, but they were scoring goals like crazy. But his mistakes that season made other teams look at him and go, nah, I'll pass on him.
I'm honestly surprised that Middlesbrough didn't aim to reloan him because, I mean, at least their fans loved Stefan.
They loved him, but they're not stupid. They saw the errors. Every 3 games, he made a gaffe. Every 3 or 4 games was a gaffe. You can't do that. And he knows that too. Stefan knows that. He's got to clean that up. But his confidence is just in the shitter. So he's going to be disappeared for a while. And that's on him because nobody wanted to take him on loan after his season with Middlesbrough. No championship team was willing to take Stefan on loan after that season. I'm being harsh. I watched the games. I'm sorry. Every 3 or 4 games, he made mistake. And while Middlesbrough had a great season, almost got promoted, you got to acknowledge that a keeper can't have, even if it's every 6 games, you can't have a oh shit moment like, let's say, Turner just had. His first oh shit moment with Nottingham Forest, like, oh, That's a gaff, a GAFF. And at least it's just been one. And people are already talking about Nottingham Forest. Or like, yeah, let's replace him with the other guy, the Portuguese guy we brought in, or whatever the fuck his name is. And that's how gaffes go. You can't make that many gaffes as a goalkeeper during a season. Stefan is hurt, and that's why he wasn't loaned out. That's not what I heard. I heard he's healthy right now. I heard he's been healthy for weeks on end, months on end. So did he get hurt? Maybe. He wasn't hurt at the end of the Middlesbrough season, was he? I don't remember that. If he was.
I don't know if he ended up going through some kind of a surgery. You always got like these end of season surgeries for something small or whatever, but I don't know if that's the case either. But let's just see. I'm on Transfermarkt right now. I'm going to take a look at his injury history.
Yeah, that's what I would do too, because I don't believe that injury was serious. If it was an injury.
Let's see here. His most recent injury was a knee surgery as far as June 1st, 2023. And he's still currently out. So yeah, he's had knee surgery.
Okay. Regardless, maybe that was also important. Obviously, if you're not gonna loan an injured player out.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens to Stefan. But here's a guy that was extremely talented as long as he was extremely confident. Because when he was in Germany, he was a very capable goalkeeper. And I don't know what happened since then. Mm-hmm. But it's I think the devastation of not being called up for the World Cup, I'm sure affected his confidence. I'm sure it blew his mind that he wasn't going to be going. So yeah, we'll see. I hope there's still hope for Stefan. I really do, because I think he's got all the tools. He's got all the tools to be a really capable keeper. But right now, Turner is far and away our number one. Horvath,
given the injuries and mediocre loaned performances as a whole, I wouldn't be surprised once his contract ends if he's back in MLS.
Wouldn't shock me. Certainly, they could use a new keeper in Atlanta. Although Kuzan, to his credit,
still plugging and chugging, man, wasn't
horrible last night. He was not as bad as he's been through some parts of the regular season. So I think it's going to be Slonina or Calendar, and you could flip a coin. The only problem is, like typically with a 23-man roster, you would wish you could only bring two goalkeepers, but in this particular Copa qualifying, you're required to bring three. So we got to mark one of these guys off. So flip a coin, Brett. I really don't care who it is.
Well, I heard somebody in the chat mentioned that there's another Olympic window during the same time period.
Yes.
And
that's
I know
why
Slonina was at the other one. So
that's what I was saying earlier.
Will it happen again? I don't know. I'm going to go and let's just assume history repeats itself.
Yep.
Slonina's with the Olympic squad.
All right. So we did it. We got through it. That's it. That's our guesses. By the way, on the last pool in the starting 11, what were we? 98%?
Our pool, yeah. I think
pool and starting 11.
We certainly didn't have Zendejas included, but
no, I'm talking about last time we did this for the last call-ups. We got 99% of not only the roster correct, but this is to say, not that we are fucking phenomenal wizards, it's to say that this is becoming more predictable based on Berhalter's line of thinking and his semi-consistency and our ability to acknowledge or at least tune in to the Greg Berhalter brain. Because we got the entire starting lineup correct.
Yeah, I like I said though, I said the only one I think we got maybe wrong was Zendejas because we didn't include Zendejas.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was because of injuries, though, right?
He who got? I forgot who got injured.
No, maybe it wasn't. We just got it wrong. And that's the roster, not the starting 11, because Zendejas never played. He never played. We didn't pick him to play.
Well, no, I don't think we had the whatever the 4-2 or the 4-2-4 lineups set up the way. I think that was. There's no way we predicted that.
4-2-4. Yeah. You're talking about Uzbekistan and Oman?
No, that was the lineup we did against Germany. Remember?
Oh, yeah, that's what it played like.
But that's what the press said.
Over and over
You
again.
guys came out with the 4-2-4. I'm like, who the fuck plays a 4-2-4? That was not a 4-2-4.
And yeah, no one plays that. And Greg didn't say you're wrong to the dude when he said that, which I found like, what do you? And then what he did say to the second time the guy said it was, it's really not important. Formations aren't important. Wow. Jimmy Conrad, 2012, right?
Yeah, exactly. Zendejas did take Tillman's
That's
spot.
right. That's right.
So,
thank you.
Technically speaking, we had Tillman, so we were right on that front. We couldn't predict injuries.
Right. We did have Tillman, and then we couldn't predict injuries. Correct. We didn't see that because our predictions were before the Tillman announcement of the injury. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Luckily, there are people who watch the show that keep us on our fucking toes and know what we said and know what we did and know what happened. Thank you for that. That's so cool. All right. I think that's going to do it for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great time. Brett's got to get back to playing some tennis in his private tennis court behind him. I have got to go back to, what was that?
Me hitting the tennis ball.
That's not really how you hit it.
The ball's coming, you hit it, right?
Well, anyhow. All right. Also, hey, if you need us to discuss things any further, you have my email. It's out there. If you have some instances coming up through the Thanksgiving and Christmas season, and you have gotten your stepsister pregnant, let us know how we can counsel you through that. I mean, we did some tonight, but if there's a glitch in the road, mom and dad aren't happy. Brett Djokovic over here, the Joker. We're always available. Make sure you subscribe, share it with your grandma, as always. And we didn't even announce this or say this, but we were actually invited by Brett Oppenheim to travel with him and Pete and Tact to Cuba for the Cuba game. Unfortunately, that happened yesterday. And we, both of us have prior commitments and cannot go. And it would have been free. I wish I could have gone. This would have, how I hate flying over any ocean though, Brett, or any body of water that has sharks in it, because I would be fearful that the plane would crash somewhere from between Florida.
Don't worry, Derek, if you crash in the ocean, you're most likely going to die. You don't have to worry about actually floating in open water.
Open water. That is a movie, by the way.
Yes.
Where motherfuckers get ate by sharks. So anyhow, it wasn't because of the sharks that I said I couldn't go. Brett has family obligations. I have other obligations that include family and work. It was just too soon of an invite. But I want to thank Brett Oppenheim for the offer. That was really super cool. And
like I told Tact, I'm like, hey, yeah, absolutely. If another one came up and I had a little more time to plan, would absolutely take them up on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank him for offering that regardless. Yeah, I think 100%. That's super fucking cool of him. And man, I would love to be hanging out with him, Tact, and Pete at fucking Cuba. That would be fucking, and you, that would be a fucking blast, dude. Can you only imagine how fun that would be?
The only problem would be it'd be too short. It'd be too short of a trip.
It would, because you fly in the day before, go to the game, leave the day after. Yeah, it's too short. And God, man, that's hectic. That's a lot of travel. It will wear me out at my age. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to Brett for that offer. All right. Until the next time on the Straight Red Card, stay healthy, stay safe, and say hi to your stepsister for us, and make sure she watched this show. All right. Take care.
But she's a trap. She's an unsung novel. Turn a lap and get your whole world dazzled on the line, or a phone call with or without wine.
That hurt.
I'm tuned in like crazy, and I'm pretending like I know what they're doing, and I'm,
The articulate and intelligent.
Greg's a bitch. That's all.
I find them offensive as hell.
I've never been a